Okay, so before we start, gusto ko lang sabihin na it will just be me for this video. For some reason, hindi nagre-reply si Huge sa GC. I don't know where he is, but ayan. So basically, wala siya. It will be just me, and the show must go on since ang dami ng ang dami naming backlogs, gameplays na kailangan pa yung tuloy, such as yung Horizon Zero Dawn. Di pa tapos yun. But it's still ongoing. Okay, magala. Kung meron mga nag-aabang nun, we will still be posting it. Tutuloy pa rin namin. And also yung Wizard with a Gun na namin ni Tin. Tutuloy din namin yon. And yung Plague Tale Requiem ni Huge. So, ayun. Tatapusin lang namin tong letter, which is, I think, nasa Rebecca chapter na tayo. So, that's 3 more chapters. Once this is done, then we will continue with the other gameplay. Anyway, get on with it. This is how it begins, or so they say. Rebecca's profile. Rebecca, April 1, Aries, 29 years old, 5'5", history teacher. And so if you want to read it, you can pause the video and read the thing. With a gentle wind drifting through wide open windows, muffled laughters and footsteps fading behind empty hallways, and the light kiss of the afternoon sun. Soon there will be a call, crossing of thresholds into the unknown. Maybe we are off to some grand adventure, or diving into another gripping mystery. One can't really tell. For all I know, a hero might even come sweep me off my feet. I'm lucky.
That's not exactly a bad thing when you think about it.
But this is far from one, isn't it? A riveting tale, that is. The mild breeze, the faint murmurs, the warm rays painting every nook and cranny, fiery hue, they're all as real as they can get. As much as I want to write a little tale out of this, I'm far from someone who can. Fleeting fancies, that's what these are. Merely passing thoughts to occupy an idle mind, while waiting for another busy workday to end. Then again, maybe in another life, I am one. Who knows? But at present, what I have and what I've chosen to be, well,
I won't last years here if I find teaching rowdy adolescents a tedious job, will I?
admittedly, the whole affair isn't exactly as grand or exciting as I had imagined as a child. If I weren't so stubborn and too passionate about the whole idea, I probably would have quit a long time ago. It's always the kids that make it worthwhile, isn't it? Is it in agreement as soon as my pen slides into a neat circle against the papers, engraving, the final bell rings. Like a dam that is opened, students begin piling out into the hallway soon after. For a short minute, I let the noise fill my ears, let my mind wander to a place far removed from all the hubbub. Solitary moments like this have come few and far between lately. Even my own home hasn't been as quiet as usually I prefer. Haven't checked branching tree. Like a chapter's quite long. Anyway. Though, in hindsight, the entire place hasn't been the same either since Isabella moved in next door. And if her fussing over a minor cold last week tells anything, I might as well throw any idea of solitude out the nearest balcony so long as he lives nearby. The memory my eyes automatically drift over the bottle sitting at the edge of my desk. A chuckle escapes from me as I reach for it.
A little ball of energy and enthusiasm. That big baby.
Mother Hen, she calls me, and then says and does the same thing right after. It's not that I'm unused to being on the receiving end of other people's worries, or I feel any sort of apprehension over her fretting. If I'm to be completely honest, it's actually amusing how someone can be childlike one minute, then act like a responsible adult the next. But there's a dissonance there, both in her actions and words. Although she may not look like it, may not say anything, may not lose her cheer, one way or another, I know these troubles have weighed down on her lately. Give me a moment. Her face says it all. That big numpty. If she thinks I won't notice, she's got another thing coming for her. That's how she has always been. I do understand that part, loud and clear. Just that I really rather not pass another burden onto her.
Or become one myself.
Aren't I supposed to be the one taking care of them? Though I guess that's simply one of those things people eventually grow away from, once you've all started leading different lives. Not completely different, I hope. Somehow that thought makes me feel uneasy. Thankfully, before stranger ideas can take root in my head, faint buzzing comes from my bag, cutting through the rest of my thoughts. Small frown forms in my lips when the screen lights up and an unknown number flashes. For a long second, my thumb hovers over the answer button. Even the voice that responds once I do accept the call is wholly unfamiliar.
Hello?
Oh, goodness. Finally, it connects. Hello? Is this Miss Gales? Rebecca Gales?
Yes, speaking. Who is this?
Oh, sorry. Rose Cooper, Briar Realty Corporation.
Briar Realty?
My frown deepens as I straighten from my chair. Something in her tone, despite sounding remarkably friendly and light, doesn't sit quite well with me. The rigid pause that follows doesn't help ease the tension that has suddenly descended either.
Miss Cooper?
Yes. Things are a bit busy on my end. I apologize. I'm not certain if Isabella has mentioned anything before, but we're working together on a property at the moment, and...
The Armengard Mansion, yes. She said something about that earlier. Is there a problem?
This is about Isabella, actually.
She wastes no time relaying everything. The details she provided are admittedly a bit vague, but enough for me to get a gist of what happened. It isn't the bad sort I'm expecting, though still worrying. Especially with words panic attack and pale, looking a bit sickly, woven together in one foreboding sentence. But as quickly as it surfaces, I stomp down on the urge to demand answers right there and then. Now isn't the proper time for useless questions. I'll find out soon enough, regardless. To Miss Cooper's credit, she neither hesitates nor falters all throughout. There's some sort of comfort in knowing Isabella has someone like her to guide her, though not as much as I would have liked. After all, this is Isabella we're talking about. What are the chances she just said a bunch of excuses so she won't get sent home? High. Very high. Oh, she is so going to hear it this time.
You were listed as one of her emergency contacts, so I thought it'd be best you know about this.
How is she? Is she doing okay?
I had her take a break for now. Honestly, I'd feel better if someone were to pick her up and take her home for some rest. Anthem's a fair distance from Luxbourne. I really don't want her going off on her own. I'd do it myself, but oh, you know how it is today. Big day. People everywhere until the open house ends. I'm really sorry to ask this of you, Miss Gales. I know you're busy.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was just about to leave from work. I hope to leave early today anyway. A few minutes ahead wouldn't hurt. I can be there in a few, 30, 40 minutes tops. Is that all right?
More than fine, Miss Gales, thank you. We're supposed to be here until... Oh, excuse me. One moment, please. Yes, ma'am.
Faint hum of conversation echoes from her end. It sounds as though the place is buzzing with more people than you'll expect from a regular open house. I was skeptical at first. The house is old, not to mention its inconvenient location in Luxbourne's outskirts. Who wants to live in a place almost an hour's drive away from the comforts of a city? But from what little I can hear, it appears Isabella has every right to be optimistic about this sale. If I didn't understand why she was so adamant refusing my offer of help before, I think I do now. To some degree.
We'll be resuming the tour soon. Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I really need to get this thing going. Lord knows how I'll salvage the situation here. It shouldn't be anything complicated, but still, clients. They can be difficult when they want to be. Anyway, just look for me when you get here, alright? I shouldn't be too hard to miss.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know about this. Just make sure Isabella stays put, please. Heaven knows how stubborn that girl can be.
Oh, believe me, I know. Don't worry about it. I'll have a few of our staff keep an eye on her for me until you get here.
That's all I'm asking. I appreciate it.
The whole thing ends on a surprisingly pleasant note. If only the same can be said for the news she brought. I allow a brief minute to pass to ease whatever tension has latched itself firmly to my nerves. But no matter how much I wish for it, my mind stubbornly refuses to do so. My hands are unsteady against the papers I pretend to arrange after. Lucid thoughts, every single ounce of it grimmer than the other, grows with each passing second I linger. Something about this whole thing, along with the sudden unease and nagging worries, screams off. Wrong. This isn't the riveting tale I've hoped to step into today. Even on a rush, getting everything in order before leaving takes nearly a good quarter hour. By the time I make it out of the classroom, the commotion has already died down, dwindling to mere echoes and distant laughter. From the nearby room, melodies from a rehearsing band drifts freely into the air, filling the almost empty hallway with their warm, lively tunes. Any other day, I'll stop, bask in the music, and enjoy what little peace it brings. Not today, however. My steps are brisk and sure as I march to Edward Hall's exit. The sooner I confirm Isabella's okay, the sooner I can shake off this niggling feeling. For some reason or another, that single call, of all possible things, has thrown everything off kilter. I'd rather this be over with as quickly as possible. So much that I nearly barrel over a student in my haste. Though, perhaps, it's really the other way around. When I look down, a set of eyes, bright and hopeful, stare back at me. Her arms are wrapped around my waist like a vice, and at my attention, a grin spreads over her face.
Buenas tardes, Miss Pink.
Hello, Kylie. You know, you aren't supposed to run into people like that.
Sorry, Miss Pink.
She loosens her hold on me, but not a hint of guilt or regret appears on her. Anything, it seems the remark only amused her. A smile appears on my face before I can help it, matching the one on her own.
Just remember not to do it again, all right? You could get hurt.
You sound like my mama when she's scolding Rowan, Miss Pink.
I'm sure your mama only means well. I know she'll be worried sick if one of you were to get hurt. Where's your brother anyway? Aren't you two supposed to be heading home now?
Rowan said he's got some stuff he needs to do before we go. I think he's taking too long. But he promised to buy me jelly babies today if I keep what he's doing a secret from Mama and Papa.
Any chance you'll tell Miss Pink about it?
She shakes her head, both her hands going to her mouth as if to keep a precious secret from spilling out.
I made a promise. He said it's for Tia Luke.
Oh, something like a gift?
Like a deal. Tio promised to take him somewhere cool when he's old enough. Rowan's gonna prove he's a grown-up.
Laughter slips free from my lips. The teacher in me wants to give whoever this Theo is a reprimand for bringing about this kind of behavior in children. But if both Juarez kids are so fond of him, there shouldn't be anything to worry about, yes? At any rate, they're nothing but well-behaved, both Kylie and her brother. Rowan, the eldest, may have an occasional odd streak in and out of class, but their parents taught them well. I see no reason to cast any suspicion of bad behavior on them.
As long as it isn't anything dangerous, all right?
It's not. Cross my heart. My drawings are a lot prettier than what he's doing anyway. Tio said so. Do you want to see? I drew one earlier at class.
Is that why you're here?
Not really. I was gonna show it to my friend first. But since it's you, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you see it before she does.
Oh no. I can't stay right now, Kylie.
Her face falls immediately after the words are out. A small part of me feels responsible for that crestfallen look, but as much as I want to stay a little longer, there's another place I need to be at right now. And, frankly, another child to look after. Taking both of her hands, I kneel in front of her and muster the most rueful smile I can give. At her age, I'm quite sure she already understands what I'm about to say before they're even out. But remarkably, she doesn't look away or pout as I'm expecting her to.
I'm sorry. You know what? Rowan has a class with me on Monday around this time. Why don't you drop by again next week, after class? I'll even make sure to wait for you. It's just that I absolutely must leave now. My friend had an accident earlier, and I'm the only one she has here.
What about her mama and papa?
Her family lives really far from here, I'm afraid. Do you remember where Asia is? The southeast part? That's where they are.
Her eyes immediately light up at my question. Just like that, I know I've earned the girl's forgiveness.
Oh, just like Takako.
Who?
My friend. She said she used to live there, only just a little higher than southeast. But she hasn't come home in a long time, so she doesn't remember much about it anymore. Melody says it's weird I talked to her, but I think she's just shy. They could be good friends too! Don't you think so, Miss Pink?
Maybe if you introduce them properly, they will be.
That's what I think. Takako's just lonely. If she makes more friends, she won't be anymore. Is your friend like that too?
A little, possibly. To be honest, sometimes I can't tell with her.
After all, Isabella has always been the kind to hold a smile, even when things have taken a turn for the worse. 5 years and one will think it's enough time to know a person, but when you consider it, Come to think of it, all these years I've never, not even once, seen her cry. Not over a trivial matter or even when things are tough.
Okay, you can go to her. I'll just show you my drawing next time.
Thank you. Remind me to buy you a huge glass of parfait, all right?
No, I'll get a stomachache. Chicago says so. A small one is okay.
I'll remember that. Say hi to your friend for me.
I will. I'm sure she'd love to meet you too. See you, Miss Pink.
I'll see you later, Kylie.
London Bridge is falling
God.
down, falling down, falling
This
down.
song again.
London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Hey. He doesn't look back or wait for any sort of goodbye from me. With a song and an extra spring in her steps, she bounds across the corridor with as much spirit only a child of her age can have. As if the conversation has never taken any downhill turn for her at all. As if there isn't a single thing to worry about in the world. Not long after, she disappears behind the door, leaving behind strains of an old, familiar rhyme lingering in the air. Carefree. Unbidden. On troubled moments like this, I envy her. As I resume my hurried pace, a tiny whisper at the back of my mind wishes the same can be said of myself and my own words. Luxbourne may be a small city, but it's no stranger to hellish rush hour traffic. But surprisingly, getting out of the city today proves more of a breeze than a hassle. A relief, considering how none of my calls to Isabella have made it through. Either the reception's really bad over there, or she's ignoring them on purpose. Both does nothing to ease the disquiet in me. The rest of my drive passes without much incident as soon as I'm out of the busy streets. In less than 30 minutes, the mansion looms ahead of me. For all the fuss Isabella made about the house, it remains a thing of beauty. Unlike Luxbourne, the estate and the nearby Anslem village stand as its complete opposite. Living and breathing the songs of the old, whispers of a once booming haven lingering in the air. Contemporary conveniences aside, it's a place I'm glad modernization hasn't wholly touched.
It's just a shame the locals know more of the silly hearsay than the history itself. If I could only knock some sense into these people!
Sadly, complaining is all I can afford to do. Much as I want to give them a piece of my mind, it isn't why I'm here. I don't think these rich types will appreciate getting a lecture from me, either. I have as much business with them as they have with me. With a heavy sigh, I give myself one last second to take in the scenery before heading up the main entrance. Most of the guests are already heading out. Though some still linger, it's mainly just to take photos of the house's facade or its various rooms. I pause for a moment, scanning the small crowd gathered in the foyer, looking for any signs of that familiar ponytail among the sea of hats and heads.
No sign of her.
No sign of the other staff or Miss Cooper either. I can certainly look for Isabel on my own, but in a place this big, I'd be lucky if I didn't end up lost or find her before we need to meet with Zachary and Ash tonight. Sighing, I reach for my mobile and redial her number, the gesture familiar now after so many attempts earlier. If she doesn't answer, I can still try contacting Miss Cooper. I just hope the network reception will cooperate this time. This side of the county has never been popular with the tech-savvy, after all. To my relief, it only took 3 unsuccessful tries. The fourth one, right as it's about to switch to another intercept message, the line finally rings. Silence follows while I wait for her to pick up, the ringing going for going far too long for my tastes. By now, most of the visitors have already cleared out. All I have for company are the faint murmurs and an eerie calmness left in the wake. Sudden hush settles and gives way to noises louder than they're ever meant to be. Doors creaking and slamming shut in some distant part of the mansion, floorboards groaning under the sheer weight of the house's history. In the now empty hall, they all reverberate with special clarity against the walls. Like this, those old stories seem to almost have a ring of truth to it. I don't get to stray far into that ugly line of thought, however. Not a second later, a click sounds from the other end.
Hello? Isabella? Miss Cooper called earlier and...
Help me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you alright?
Without any warning, the call gets cut off. Busy notes blare sharply against the heavy silence. But above the noise cutting through the mute air remains the faint cries of a woman. From beyond the foyer. My hand falls to my side as I cast a wary look around, waiting for someone to come running. Surely I can't be the only one here hearing this. There must still be some staff hanging around, checking things out, but no one does. Not even when her sobs turn more frantic and anguished.
Excuse me? Hello? Who's there? Isabella? Isabella? Is that you?
No answer. Growing anxious, I amble over where her cries come from, each step slow and cautious, towards a door on the other end of the room. While I'm far from someone who readily gives in to fear or stories lacking factual basis, the vague, restless feeling I have earlier immediately returns to me. And despite myself, my heart begins to race and my breathing quickens.
Belle? Belle, it's me. Miss Cooper called. Is everything okay?
Abruptly, all of it stops. My whole body tenses, mouth dragging in a ragged breath, ears straining for any other sound yet to come from the other side. But nothing follows. Instead, the quiet only lends itself to the heavy tension in the air, as if every small movement will disturb the fragile stillness hanging in the room. I wait for another second. Then, with a caution, I reach for the knob. Fingers barely graze the brass handle when a hand falls on my shoulder.
Excuse me, ma'am? I am so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you.
No, it's a...
Still reeling, my gaze shifts back to the door as if any second now the cries will start again or whoever's inside will burst out of the room. But I don't get to dwell on these. The woman's worried voice breaks through the haze in my mind again, oddly soothing in the thick of my unease. Even if the concerned look comes from a total stranger, finally being in the company of someone else is somehow comforting.
Ma'am? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. This is probably just some cold.
Do you need to sit down?
No need. I'm actually looking for a friend.
I wave the mobile in front of her, like the gesture alone explains everything. Vaguely, I note my tight grip on it and quickly slip it into my pocket before she notices. She doesn't need to know.
Well, I'm not really sure if your friend would still be here. We're actually about to close the open house in a few minutes, ma'am.
No worries. She's not a guest here. She works for Briar Realty. Miss Cooper called me earlier. In fact, I'm also looking for her.
Recognition flashes in her eyes, and her worried expression dissolves into a smile that, at once, it's all I need to know that I don't have to look elsewhere or venture deeper into the mansion on my own. In some way, I'm not too keen on the latter right now.
Oh, Miss Rebecca Gales, is it?
Yes, sorry if I'm a bit late.
It's not a problem. I was busy with the open house and a few clients anyway. It's actually a good thing you came when you did. Let's see. Isabella should be here somewhere. I told her to stay put earlier. That girl never listens.
Rose? Rosie? May I have a minute? There's just this one little thing before we go.
Miss Cooper's head immediately snaps up at the voice. In a blink, a different kind of smile spreads on her face. Smile still, friendly even, but the kind given mainly for the sake of pleasing other people rather than making friends.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there in a few.
It's an impressive thing, to say the least. That level of professionalism. I suppose working years in this kind of business trains you enough to be able to pull that off without batting an eye. It certainly didn't seem to have rubbed off on Isabella, though.
Sorry, could you give me a second? I have to take care of this.
Don't worry about it, I understand. I can wait a few more minutes. Clients, right?
You won't hear anything from me. Priorities, you know? But if you want, you can stay at the parlor in the meantime. I think we have a few refreshments left.
No, thank you. I'm going out with a few friends after this. Isabella's supposed to join us too. But that depends on how she's doing, of course.
All right, this won't be long, I promise.
He throws me an apologetic look before sauntering over the small group gathered at the entrance. A couple, or siblings, and another woman, probably their secretary. Either way, they look no different from the other guests. All three of them primly dressed, albeit in a manner significantly simpler than the others. No frills, no extravagance of any form. But their gestures and movements alone speak volumes of their ingrained lifestyle. In their presence, I do what I can to appear inconspicuous on my side of the foyer. Maybe accepting Miss Cooper's offer would have been a much better choice than standing around awkwardly and gaping at them. All while also attempting my best not to listen in on their conversation. Although that one proves more difficult with how enthusiastic the blonde woman is. Her voice easily echoes through the walls with only the five of us here. Pretty soon, I find myself being drawn into their talk without meaning to.
Tomorrow? First thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, ma'am.
The mundane talk isn't what catches my attention, however.
Very well. We'll have our lawyers prepare everything as soon as possible. Let's make this whole thing easier for everyone, shall we? Just let me know if there's anything you need from me. You know how to contact me, yes?
Got your mobile number saved here already.
Good. It's just a matter of time then.
It's a brief moment. A fleeting shift of my eye.
Monday for us, Marianne.
As long as you're positive, we won't be having any problems by that time. You can count on my team.
Guilty. Goodness. Barely made a dent.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this,
And the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
Oh, I'm certain Mint's ecstatic, Buttercup. Aren't you, Marianne? You know, we could all celebrate this with a few drinks. Why don't we? In fact, there's this really excellent Irish pub I visited a few days ago.
looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. A dark blur. No, a shadow.
I. I think I'll pass on that, sir. I have more important matters to attend to.
Darling, your liver. You already had a glass today, and apparently a few days ago as well. How many times do we have to remind you? Doctor's orders, remember?
What a shame. You never let me do anything fun.
But as I try to make sense of it, a heavy feeling descends over my whole body. It happens without warning, forcing me to close my eyes. Sensation creeps to every part of me, crawling under my skin and draining me little by little of any strength. Before I know it, my hand is gripping the nearby door for support. The sudden nausea drowns out their voices and what little sound there is. All except for the whispers and laughters. Judging, mocking, taunting. Muffled, inaudible words bearing down on me like a death sentence. They wrap around my neck and limbs, binds tightening with every syllable, every utterance. And with each draw of breath I take, they drag me down slowly, almost painfully into a bottomless abyss. On, and on, and on, till the sounds turn into mere distant echoes, until suddenly it shatters.
Well, what are we waiting for? Are we done here?
His voice rips through the fog like a sharp blade and my eyes snap open. When I look to them again, it's gone.
Just a second, darling. Send my regards to Isabel, please. Poor girl. Please let her know she doesn't have to worry and tell her to get some rest. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Likewise, ma'am.
No shadows or dark clouds. Only amicable smiles and cordial handshakes, the usual pleasantries, as Miss Cooper leads them out the mansion like a graceful host. None of the group seems to have noticed it. And even as I force my breathing to calm down, keep my eyes strained on their backs, and wait for something to happen, it doesn't come back. She returns a moment later. Gently, she closes the great doors behind her, but there's a smile on her lips and an extra skip in her step when she walks back to me. Whatever she was discussing with the group had put her in a good mood. Even she appears to have not observed anything odd. Was I just seeing things?
Glad that was over. It's been a long day. I thought for sure we were going to... Hey, are you sure you're doing okay? You look a bit green.
You look green. On me.
It's all good. I'm actually still recovering from a cold. Weather's been crazy lately.
That must be it. The weather, this stupid cold, and the friendly warnings I'm too stubborn to listen to. As much as I hate to admit it, Isabel's right. I was, and still am, a little feverish when she visited me at school this morning. The medicine helped, of course, but only some. Although it's not like I can't function, it did get better after lunch, and I was able to go through my schedule like usual. Now I'm not so sure. However, I can't keep acting like I've seen some sort of apparition when it's anything but. I simply must have listened too many times to Isabella last week. A fever muddled mind has started to confuse things. If this doesn't let up, I just need another visit to my doctor, plain and simple. Though I do hope it won't get worse. We did promise to watch Zachary's film together.
I know what you mean. I've been complaining to Isabel. It doesn't seem to affect her much, though. Must be because she grew up in the tropics. Anyway, shall we? She's probably hanging out with the rest of the catering staff.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised she's there. She eats like 10 hungry men when she isn't feeling well. Lead the way.
With a small nod, she gestures for me to follow. I do so without much thought, finally putting everything in the back of my mind. The entire visit took a whole 24 minutes, and my trip to the mansion, as it turns out, is a useless endeavor in itself. Oh, that's new. Isabella's no longer there, left shortly before I arrived. Or at least, that's what the few staff who saw her assumed. None of them knew where she went, but I can take a few guesses. There are only a number of places in Luxbourne she frequents, and, well, she's never been the complex kind. Doesn't really take a genius to figure it out. Still, it's odd she left on her own. She could have at least waited for Miss Cooper. It would have saved her having to pay the cab's fare twice today.
And right after she was told to stay put! I mean, who does that? Oh, sod off! You don't own the road!
In the end, all Miss Cooper could give me were a string of apologies for my trouble, and a request to let her know when I find Isabella. The whole affair didn't even last long. I probably spent more time traveling back and forth. Soon enough, I'm weaving my way back downtown Luxbourne, worried, sick, and on top of that, maybe a little annoyed. Whether at the unexpected turn of events or at Isabella herself, I'd rather not think about it for now. Not when I'm already running late for Zachary's film. Besides, I'm perfectly sure that's where I'll find her. As one would expect, people are already gathered at the movie house when I get to it. Small avenue where it's located has been closed off early from any passing traffic to make way for the avid moviegoers who are sure to crowd the venue. I have to park almost a street away and walk the remaining distance because of it. Looking for them has taken a while in a crowd this big, but I eventually spot them near the entrance. Thanks to Zachary, mostly. And like I've surmised, Isabella's with them.
I knew it.
Wasting no time, I march over their little group. Words filled with concern tumble out of my mouth before I can stop myself.
Isabella! Oh, thank goodness! Becca, you're just in time.
An odd expression crosses her face as I hold it with both hands, but I ignore it in favor of getting a good look at her, forcing her to keep still and fix her gaze at me.
Becca, you're squishing my face. How are you? Are you all right?
Why wouldn't I be?
There doesn't seem to be any visible injury, nor does he appear to be in pain. Apart from her confused frown at my questions, he looks pretty much like how she would any other day. Even so, you can't really tell those things with her at first glance. Last time she got sick, she never bothered to call anyone, even me, who lives right next door. If I hadn't checked on her then, she probably would have died on her bed with the rest of us none the wiser. One thing we laugh about now, but moments like those also teaches you something about the person. If anything, it has given me more reason to constantly worry about her. And the moment a familiar name comes up, I know my concerns right now are completely baseless.
Rose called me earlier.
Her expression swiftly changes, and gently as she can, Isabella pushes my hands away. Yet, even before she says anything, I already have a hunch how this whole thing will play out.
Oh, no, everything's good. Rose covered for me at work today.
That's not what I'm talking about. How's your head?
Then and there, the whole conversation goes down as I've imagined. He dodges my hand when I reach for the back of her head, intending to check the said injury myself. He even makes a show of hiding behind Zach just to avoid me. Instantly, what's supposed to be a simple inquiry dissolves into a shameless game of tag. Shouting and chasing like none of us can be bothered to act like the full-grown adults we're all supposed to be. Including Ashton. I won't put it past Isabella, but Ash? Out of everyone? In fact, if that stupid smirk on his face tells me anything, he finds this whole mess amusing. Oh, for the love of...
Isabella, this isn't a laughing matter.
She did look pale when I saw her.
Wow, thanks a lot, Ashton, you traitor. I'll get you back for this, just you wait.
What? I'm just saying it as it is. If you mentioned this earlier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
There's a moment's pause. My hand stills midair as my attention shifts to Ashton and the words he leaves hanging between the four of us. He doesn't meet my eye. I don't think he's even aware of what he said. But the meaning in each syllable alone is clear. They echo. They sting. They burn.
I'm sorry. Saw her?
Yeah, they arrived together. Bella looked fine to me then. I don't know.
Of course. Of course. Why else would Isabella leave on her own after being told to stay put? After that little chat about money this morning. Something close to silence falls while I mull over their words. Both what's already been said and what's left unspoken. I do find my voice, it only reeks with nothing but bitter, unpleasant thoughts. Thoughts I quickly stamp out before they surface. Thoughts I hide the best I can in the deepest parts of my mind, locking it away for no one to see.
Oh, that's good. At least she didn't have to travel alone, right? At least. Good.
Yet, try as I might, the green-eyed monster easily rears its ugly head. Like it always does every time his gaze lingers a second longer. Every time he smiles in a manner far too gentle, far too sincere, whenever he thinks no one can see. Every time my mind suggests his words mean more than they should. Every small, little thing. Despite what he says, despite his tone.
Look, you guys.
For all I know, it may just be the same kind of fondness born from friendship. Maybe I'm simply overthinking like he often tells me, or maybe there really is something there. But in his short display of impatience, I know the whole of it is just for show. After all, growing up together with him didn't teach me nothing about him. For whose sake is it this time though? For him? For Zachary? For her? Or for me? That I can't tell.
If she says she's okay, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can stop her either. Besides, she's still acting like the same old Isabella to me, if she can still run around like that.
Why are you taking her side?
I'm not. But if she wants to watch Zach's movie with us, I'm not going to stop her. She's probably the one looking forward to it the most.
Ash, that's... You, of all people, should know...
Tell you what, if I notice something amiss with her, I'll take her to the nearest hospital myself. Is that good enough for you?
My mouth opens and then snaps shut almost as quickly, forming a thin, hard line instead. I can't respond, not because there's nothing to say. On the contrary, there's plenty. So many things I can use to reason and get him to agree. Because he speaks with much certainty, with much reassurance, it feels like there isn't even a choice. All I can give is a long, deep breath and a reluctant nod in the face of it. If Before I can get a grip of myself and my own weakness, the mood immediately shifts and I am being tackled into a hug.
Thanks, Becca.
It's always been you with him, isn't it?
Did you say something?
Me? Nothing. Don't mind me.
A lie, obviously. What else can it be? Each and every smile, a tiny effort to keep things as they are, or so I tell myself. Little do I know, this is merely a preamble. It starts out quietly and without fanfare, amidst every friendly jibes and harmless teasing, with a scrap of paper fluttering harmlessly to the ground. One that looks suspiciously like a cheap Halloween prank no matter how we look at it. And yet, despite how ludicrous it all is, Isabella stubbornly insists, as if our whole life depends on acknowledging the truth in her story. Does she even realize how absurd she sounds right now? Privans, even my students wouldn't fall for this.
Isabella, aren't you taking this a bit too far?
She doesn't give me time to regret nor think over my choice of words. From there it escalates, grows into an argument too petty even for our standards as adults. Before we know it, one after another, harsh, scathing words are being spoken.
It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me. If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Right. And in broad daylight, Isabella. Even someone gullible would find the logic in that screwed up.
There's also no way in hell that this supernatural shit is true.
But it's real! What do you think I saw?
A hallucination? A delusion? Didn't you say you fell down some stairs? So maybe Rebecca's right.
It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
But someone has to be patient in all this, and however much my own has already been frayed earlier, there's no one else. Who else here can deal with someone selfishly acting like a kid? Like every other time, it has to be me.
We are, and you know that. But this thing and that thing has got nothing to do with the other. When Rose called earlier, I thought she's just exaggerating. But based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe it's better if we really postpone this for now.
Don't bother.
Just like that, she cuts us off. Slams the door right on our faces while my own temper flares before I can stop it. Although it falters briefly at the hard expression on her. When she snatches the blasted paper from Ashton, I hold on to it. Regardless of how upset she appears, coward expression and balled fists, throwing a tantrum is simply unacceptable. For a grown woman at that. Words form at the tip of my tongue, ready. But before I can open my mouth, let all of it out, her feelings and mistakes be damned, Zachary raises a voice of his own.
Guys!
A warning, underneath the warm and hopeful beat in his voice. We all stop and look to him. Even my own anger subsides a little at his tone.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
To an outsider, it may sound like a desperate request, but Zachary has always been the one to keep a level head over petty squabbles. This time's no different. He knows what to say, and when he lets it fall, they only ring sharp and true.
We haven't seen each other for months. I'd really love to know what y'all have been up to. I only ever get to talk to Bella over chat. Please.
And as careful as he is with his own tone, it does make me feel ashamed. We're supposed to be here for him, to give what little support we can give. Yet, here he is, trying to keep three stubborn people from outright hashing it out in public. Later, we can and will talk about it, of course. There's a proper time and place for it, and at the moment, my anger and whatever reprimands it carries no longer matter. Beside me, Ashton appears to have already caught on. The lines of his shoulders ease to something much more relaxed, his expression back to its usual nonchalance. Isabella, however, she stands perfectly still, her hands clasping the straps of her bag like a lifeline, eyes trained at some point near her shoes. There's no anger in her face, only an undeniable hurt. But she's never been good at hiding what she thinks. Always the open book, always the one to air her heart out in the open. And when she looks up, her answer is also as simple.
I'm sorry. Today's not a good day for a movie night out.
Okay, now we're making progress.
I think I'll pass. Enjoy, you guys.
Keep on. Up. On your one. Isabella refuses to meet our eyes, Zachary's in particular. And though she smiles, it's hollow and bellied by her trembling hands and drooping shoulders. I wait for another outburst from her when she drags in a breath, anything easier to deal with than her short, wounded glances. Only it doesn't come. Instead, she stumbles back and merely walks off on us.
Isabella, wait!
Zachary's and Ashton's voices immediately follow mine. However, the swell of the afternoon crowd has already swallowed her, retreating back, before our words can reach her. Regardless if they do, I don't think she'll listen either. So exasperating. Here I was, thinking earlier how admirable she can be when she acts at her age. All because of one stupid piece of prank she can't let go of. Despite the tense, awkward air she leaves, none of us speaks nor chases after her. Even with my own frustration over the matter, even with Ashton's seeming indifference. Until Zachary's sharp exhale slices through the stiff atmosphere, and he voices out what we're likely too proud to admit given our natures.
Really, guys?
She walked out on us, Zachary. Can you believe her?
Yes, I saw. But that ain't the point here. You could have at least humored her, toned down on the teasing for a bit.
He sends Ashton a pointed look at the last one. For a moment, the latter appears about to say something in his defense, but soon drops the idea altogether. He swiftly averts his gaze with a small frown, his hands going to rub the back of his neck in an awkward gesture of comfort for himself. He knows Zachary's right, in more ways than one, and this is the closest we can get to him admitting he's in the wrong. But
You can't just tolerate that. If this is her idea of a joke, I fail to see what's so funny about it. She went overboard, Zachary. And then she goes home all upset, like we're the ones at fault here?
Cut her some slack, please. We're all aware how she felt about the mansion in the first place, yeah?
You don't really believe what's written on that paper, do you?
No, but come on, Ash. You're the detective here. You must have noticed something we didn't.
Hey, Zach, keyword detective. Police? Dealing with supernatural shit isn't in our training manual, if that's what you're trying to get at.
I ain't. All I'm trying to say is, we all have our bad days. Give her the benefit of the doubt, okay?
She was behaving like a child, Zachary.
Ain't we all? Look, let's just hear her out next time, aight? Talk about it properly, preferably without anyone blowing a fuse. She won't be making a big deal out of this if she's in a better mood in the first place. Something else must have ticked her off at work. Just snowballed from there.
Probably not something.
A shadow passes over Ashton's eyes, his eyebrows furrowing in deep thought. But he tucks it all away before Zachary notices or I can ask about it. Catching that look on him, however, brief as it is, leaves me unsettled for some reason. It's something I'm not used to seeing in him.
Someone, though.
Oh, so you did do something.
What? No! Why does it have to be me?
You tell me. You used to be so friendly with each other. Now, every time you're in the same room, all you two seem to do is ruffle each other's feathers. What exactly happened, Ash?
Nothing.
Alright, and you're a much better cook than Sis.
I didn't do anything. Really. You might be right, though. Something must have happened during the open house. There was a crowd, you know? It could have easily been one of their guests. Anyway, we should stop wasting time here. What's done is done. Let's just head inside. The movie's going to start soon.
Ashton doesn't even wait as he shuffles inside, leaving Zachary and I staring after him. A diversion, if I've ever seen one. Frankly, I don't know what to make of that. Moments like this often blur the lines between those he prefers to keep at a distance and those he has opened up to. Sometimes it puts the question of how far he's willing to trust his own friends. Sure, his straight face whenever there's something in his mind, nothing short of impressive. For people he never bothered to let in, typical. No one will care, and that's exactly how he prefers it. He never did quite like the kind who meddles. But those who know him well, those he has allowed to get close, are bound to catch on. Bound to grow concerned regardless of the things he wants to keep to himself. Especially with that look on his face earlier.
What's with him? I was just pulling his leg.
I'm sure it's just as he says. He would have said something by now if there's anything we should be concerned about. You know how he operates.
All empty reassurances. I don't believe the words myself. In the first place, there shouldn't have been a need to make these excuses for him. But it's obvious there's something that needs to be addressed as soon as I get the chance. And it can't be in the presence of other people. Including Zachary.
Oh, all 13 of my locks know exactly how.
Don't hold it against him.
Easy for you to say. He never does that to you guys.
He knows his boundaries. And Belle would have probably hit him with that metal rolling pin she keeps, if he so much as thinks about it.
Actually, I'm almost surprised she hasn't done so yet.
Short pause, then, like a switch that has been turned off, Zachary's jovial mood dies down. It doesn't take long for him to find his voice again, though the hesitance in it is apparent.
Rebecca? About Bella earlier. Could you...
Don't worry about her. Just enjoy your own movie for now. I'll check on her when I get home. Maybe I could even get the real story out of her.
That'd be great. Thanks. Man, I was really hoping to watch this with all of you.
We'll get another chance. It's not like we won't be seeing each other soon. We're living in the same city, for heaven's sake.
Touché. Anyway, you should head in too. Who knows what trouble Ash has gotten in there without us. Somebody should keep him in line.
He's a grown man. He can take care of himself for a few minutes. What about you?
Getting us some snacks. My treat, yeah? We've still got a few minutes to spare before they start. I'll catch up with you both soon.
All right, but don't take too long. Just bottled water for me, if you're planning to get some drinks too.
Right, gotcha.
He gives my shoulder a light tap, then hurries over the snack bar. Briefly, I allow my gaze to linger past it, towards the far end of the street, same direction Isabella took off earlier. Searching, hoping, expecting she'll simply be standing among the passing crowd. that everything's just a bluff. Perhaps there'll also be an apology ready at the tip of her tongue. Promise to be more responsible with her actions next time. But, much as I will it, there's no sign of her. After that little spat, it'll be foolish to even wait at this point. So with a sigh, I finally step inside. It's not the excited chatter that stops me once I'm in the small auditorium. Rather, it's the sheer lack of one. Hall's not completely empty, no? From where I'm standing, I can still spot a couple of heads dotting the seats. Some nodding, mostly engaged in cheerful conversation before the film starts. But the absence of a bigger audience and what few murmurs floating in the air only made the room seem a lot larger than it actually is.
Surely this can't be all there is from that crowd outside.
They had to close a whole street for this, didn't they? In any case, this is still just the first showing. For sure, it'll have a bigger turnout in the next one. However, despite these reassurances, a pang of worry still hits me as I stride down the aisle, passing by rows after rows of empty seats in search of Ash. I don't even want to think how Zachary would feel after all the effort he put into this. Though, if there's still any comfort to find here, it's that there'll be less chances of loud interruptions, particularly from theater-goers lacking manners. In the fact, I'll be spending the evening with a friend. And Ashton. Familiar warmth, one I've harbored longer than anything, immediately unfurls at my stomach, in spite of myself, in spite of the reasons I've convinced myself of for being here. Naturally, those are not lies. They never are. I'm here to give what little morale boost I can lend as a friend. But I won't deny Ashton has been a part of it too. Sometimes, you simply can't say no, and once you realize logic's no longer at play, striking a fair balance with reason becomes harder. Trickier. It's not like I can simply ask myself to stop or forget for a moment, can I? Doesn't work that way. Not after I've gone and loved the same person for 17 years. If only he'd looked this way for once. Even for a short, fleeting second. Then maybe...
Okay, listen. I personally know the guy. He might be able to help. I can easily get in touch with him if you want, so...
I thought we all agree there'd be no what calls tonight. Pay up, Ash. That pizza fund box needs some cash.
All he gives for an answer is a glance, a small smile. Yet it still sends the heat swirling in my stomach rising up my cheeks. A feeling I instantly pull the reins in on as I take the empty seat next to him. Traitorous little thing, that smile. I don't think he's ever been aware of what it does to any woman who happened to catch sight of it. He wouldn't have thrown it out so casually otherwise. Then again, it's also one of the very few things he allows only the people close to him see.
Sorry, just a sec, Becca. Hey, I gotta go? If you get this message, just let me know, okay? I'll free up my schedule if you want to check with him. No fees attached. I promise. Bye.
Fees? You're not doing anything illegal, are you?
You know me better than that.
Inspector Abigail?
Yeah. No! I am not losing that bet. Don't count on it.
Oh, come on, Ash. It's not like it's going to put a dent in your paycheck. Which one is it? Officer Carl? Officer Benjamin? The chief?
None of the above. And Chief hates it when I call him. Give it up.
Ash stops a moment when I hold a hand up at him. The expression on my face affecting, although a smile threatens to break through at the baffled look spreading on his own. He resembles a lost child like this. Sometimes I forget we're the same age.
What?
Mobile.
And why?
Evidence, what else? You always preach they don't lie. Put your money where your mouth is. Show.
He blinks once, then sighs. Rather loudly at that, with every intention to let the whole auditorium know how tedious he finds this little back and forth is. Just the same, he raises the gadget up my face, but before I can even read past a single letter, he swiftly slides it out of view and straight into his pocket.
It's not work, I swear by my badge.
Oh, just admit you didn't want to pay. You're a worse cheapskate than Belle.
Becca, look at me. Tell me, does this face seem like it's lying to you?
Maybe. Here's an idea then. Why don't you find a mirror and answer that yourself?
Pass. I've seen it plenty. It still looks the same. Honestly, it's getting boring.
All right, suit yourself. Just remember, I'm not the one who got caught breaking a deal we all made.
Really, Rebecca, it's not what you're thinking. A friend just needed help with the problem. It's nothing big enough that I'll run off on you two. Don't worry.
It's a sign. Time to end this little banter. As fun as this chat has been, some lines he simply doesn't allow me to cross, regardless of the years we've spent growing up together. Especially with the sort of work he does. Of course, that doesn't mean I haven't tried. I still do from time to time, hoping he'll at least share something more substantial than his routine vague answers. Occasionally he'll talk about it if we ask, but never in full detail, and only stuff we need to know. In case we need to look for his dead body, he joked one time. He doesn't repeat it after a stern look from me, but it doesn't make the whole situation any less frustrating.
Where's the big guy, by the way? He can't be missing from his own premiere.
Food. Is there something you want? I could...
Nah, it's good. He'll know what to get. Frankly, I'm more worried about him. Do you think Zach's gonna be okay with this?
I don't need to follow where he directs his eyes next to know what he's talking about. I've seen it with my own, felt the exact same doubt.
I honestly don't know. I only have a small idea of how these things work. But he put a lot of effort into this. Someone will certainly notice.
He did put a chunk of his savings on it. He was hoping to start a small studio when it takes off. If it takes off.
You doubt him?
No, just concerned, I guess. As far as I know, the whole fund was initially for the studio. Space, equipment, that kind of stuff. I have no idea what suddenly came over him. He already had enough to start one on his own. Why would he use it for something else?
I'm sure it'll be fine. Zachary knows what he's doing. He had me check the scripts and the research he did before he went through with this. His personal experience with the topic also counts. I think he's onto something here.
He merely lets out other hum. Only I can't figure out if it's in agreement or meant to be something else. The whole conversation dies down soon after, and a silence falls between us. A strange kind of atmosphere that teeters between tense and uncomfortable, almost to the point of awkward. Between the two of us, this rarely ever happens. We've already gone past this point as children. Yet, Ashton can't seem to sit still, discreetly checking his phone every few seconds, glancing back at the entrance when he thinks no one's paying attention. Even when people have started to trickle into the room and fill some of the vacant seat. It makes the wait for Zachary all the more longer than it should be. In the thick of it, I find myself grasping for something else to talk about. Okay, just to calm the growing restlessness in my stomach. So we're at age. I think this negatively impacts the relationship. There's about you. Good thing it's not difficult with him. Once you know how and what makes Ashton tick, getting him in a conversation doesn't take much effort. Amusing how most people often assume he's hard to approach, when in reality, it's the opposite.
What about you?
What about me?
Don't play coy. We haven't heard anything decent from you. Except for those memes you leave in the chat box every morning.
Hey, they're funny.
To you, maybe. Belle hates them.
No, she doesn't. I know she likes them well enough.
Believe what you will, but that's beside the point. You've been quiet since your promotion last year. Even more so after you got assigned to your current case.
I trail off, letting the silence speak my meaning instead of the words I don't utter. There's no need to voice each of them out. I know he understands perfectly what I'm trying to get at. He always did. It's evident when his whole demeanor shifts. The carefree air around him gone at once, his shoulders losing their laid-back slant.
You know I can't talk in detail about that.
Well then, talk about something else. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It could be anything under the sun. It's not so hard.
Rebecca, out of everyone else, you know how this whole thing works. I can't just...
We do worry, you know? Zachary worries. Isabella worries.
I worry. Though his mouth briefly opens, nothing comes of it except for a contemplative frown. I want to tell him more. Drill the idea into his head again and again till he says something. Make him remember this one little thing before he runs off to God knows where, doing God knows what. Again. Instead, we fall back into one of those wordless phases both of us seem to share a lot as of late. Same old song and dance. Ranting might be useless at this point, but I won't take it back. I begin to count passing seconds, vaguely wishing for Zachary's arrival or the movie's start, something else to concentrate on. But as soon as I think that would be the end of it, he speaks. Hesitant, careful in his choice of words.
The chief found a new temp to pull a prank on the other week.
Is that even allowed?
Using the police car? No.
And that doesn't bother anyone at all?
Maybe a few. But he's the chief. Chances are he'll probably get swept under the rug. It doesn't really matter. Everyone knows he's harmless when he's like that. Probably just procrastinating on his paperwork. Eventually, he'll also get tired of the new temp. I'll give it a week or so, and... Oh yeah, speaking of the new temp, Inspector Carl.
So out of the blue, yet so equally mundane. Boring. Dull. Nothing's remotely special about this attempt at small talk. Yet despite myself, a fond smile still spreads across my face. It feels nothing less than the old days. Back when things were less complicated. Back when it was only the two of us. Oh well. A lot has changed in 17 years when you think about it. I've grown out of my shell, for one. Maybe even a little too much from that shy little girl who someone else had to defend from bullies. I mean, who would have thought she'd ever become a teacher after that? Then again, if it weren't for Ash, things might not have changed at all. I suppose it's something I'll always owe him, how he's always stood by me, how he's become that one constant in my life after all these years. And sitting beside him like this again, like how we used to, I wish time will simply stand still.
Rebecca?
His voice immediately snaps me out of my little daydream. I don't even get a short moment to compose or berate myself for it. Because when I glance up, I find him peering at me, face too close to mine for comfort. Heat quickly makes its way up my face while I fumble for words to answer him with.
Oh, yeah.
Were you even listening?
Sorry. I just got distracted. The weeks before exams are always the busiest.
You look a bit red in the face, though. You okay? Isabella mentioned you've been sick.
I'm fine, really. Don't listen to her.
Sure?
I'm sure, Ash. I was already feeling well enough this morning. Do you think I'll be able to work if I wasn't? She's just making a bigger deal out of something that's...
The rest of what I'm saying easily dies on my tongue. He places a hand on my forehead. Only to check my temperature, I'm fully aware of that. But with him this close, eyes searching and curious, I could pretend he loves me the way I want him to. Pretend I'm the one he sees. A tender look he so rarely spares anyone crosses his face. Pretend it's something he does only for me, even if the truth's far from it.
You don't seem to have any fever, but we can ask Zach if you're not feeling well.
I swat his hand away at once, ignoring how much my own heart clenches at the loss of contact.
Don't! Belle already left. We can't bail out on Zachary now. If another one of us leaves, how do you think he'll feel about that?
I can stay with him?
Don't be ridiculous. It's not going to be the same thing. Besides, I'm really okay now, so leaving is out of the question.
Who's leaving?
I have to suppress my laughter when Ash's expression dissolves into a tiny frown. A whole slew of arguments must have already been at the tip of his tongue. Luckily, Zach chooses that moment to show up, sudden arrival preventing whatever this is from escalating into something that can go both ways. A grin is the only answer I can give at the question in the man's eyes.
No one!
That's right.
Becca.
We were just talking about his coworker.
Oh, is anybody I know in particular? Retiring or something?
There's a split-second pause before Ashton answers. When his sour look once again lifts into a small smile, I know it's the moment he decides to abandon the topic altogether. Not like he can win against me, anyway.
Not really. It was just a few people being transferred lately.
Usual bureaucracy, huh?
You could say that. Chief's just annoyed at the paperwork.
Zachary, why don't you sit down first, before you two start talking about workplace politics of all bloody things? I'd hate to get caught in the middle of it.
Zachary gives out a hearty laugh, but quickly moves to take the unoccupied seat on Ashton's other side. If he's ever worried about the less than stellar attendance to his movie, it doesn't show in his face. In fact, for the better half of the evening, only a cheery mood permeates in the air. Whatever hiccups we've previously ran into, uncalled for jealousies, petty squabbles, and foolish chain letters, all lay forgotten at the back of our minds. If only all four of us were here. The rest of the evening passes without further event, though we don't stay long after. Some plans were made for after the movie the night before, but they're mostly Isabella's suggestions, and with her absent, there isn't much point to it, is there? We'll just have to find some other time, preferably when everyone's in a better frame of mind. Certainly not when the rest of us are this exhausted, have things nagging at the back of our minds, or this emotionally drained. Although we still have a long night ahead of us, and chances of spending together what little free time we have might grow slim in the next days. Sometimes there are things you simply can't force. Sentiment we all likely share at the moment, if the silence before we part ways tells anything. Even Zachary seems reluctant to break it.
Well, it was fun, despite, you know. But really, thanks for staying, you two.
Don't mention it. It's the least we can do.
Nah, I owe you both. Especially you. You sure you don't want payment for all that history checking you did?
Quite sure. Oh, you know what? On second thought, just save it for when you win an award. Treat us someplace nice or something.
I doubt it'll go that far.
Oh, please. Think positive for once.
I hear you, ma'am. I hear you.
Then put some back into it.
It's really too early to say, but here's hoping, I guess. We'll see. Anyhow, I'm off. Got some new photography gig lined up in the next few days. But just call me anytime you guys want to hang out. Sketch should be easy to free up for some R&R now. How about you, Ash? You coming with?
We both glance his way, though mine probably comes off sharper, more scrutinizing. He hasn't said a word since we left the theater, his eyes completely glued to his phone as soon as the movie ended. Typical. Once he notices, though, a wry smile makes its way into his face. His apology. And like every other time, it'll suffice.
Oh, yeah, I need to double check something with the guys at the precinct.
Same way then. You gonna be fine on your own, Rebecca?
My car's parked just a block away from here. It should be an easy walk. But both of you should get going if you're in a hurry.
Right. Drop us a message when you get home. And that thing with Isabella too when you get a chance to see her. See ya.
Yeah, I will. Be careful, you two. Bye.
They leave without a backward glance. But despite my own exhaustion and the strong desire to go home, I remain on the same spot for some scant seconds still. Watching them trying to figure out where to go from here, as if the answer can be found in their retreating backs. If Zachary hasn't mentioned Isabella again, I probably would have forgotten about his request. I would have simply left the anger to subside until we can pretend like nothing happened. When I finally crossed the street, long after they disappeared behind the evening crowd, I only have one choice in mind. Yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. Yeah, we'll continue this in the next video. That's a good stopping. Made a decent chunk. Long chapter. Anyway, that's it. GG.